A lot of stress. Rami's been saying it earlier. Like we pitched season 1 over here. It was like over here. So like to come in with How to Ruin Christmas, the funeral, is a lot of pressure. It's scary. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest. It's quite scary and nerve-wracking. But I think, we try to remain the same. Like when we made season 1, we weren't like, oh my God, this is gonna win awards and be #1. We're like, oh, we're gonna tell this really dope story about family and coming together and the dysfunctionality of it in Christmas time in South Africa. So we wanted to stay within that realm as well for the season. So I'm excited. I hope people are excited. I don't know. Rami's like, it's the best, it's the one. She's my hype man. I need to take her with me everywhere. We just kept it authentic. We didn't try, we were like, okay, the world hasn't really seen what Christmas in South Africa is like, and South Africans haven't really seen themselves reflected on screen in that kind of way either. So what is there? And we really leaned on people in our family and tropes that we knew Black people would know. Like you would know your drunk uncle, you would know your really Christian mother, you would have that aunt who's Aunt Grace. And I think being authentic to those stories makes it relatable. And that's the key to it. And obviously hiring the best in the game, whether it's from the acting perspective, the DOP, directing, it's like, I don't know if you know Captain Planet, when they said, let our powers combine. Yeah. So it's like literally all of our powers combined created this thing, but at its heart, it's just an authentic story. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. It is authentic. And also, funny enough, for me as well, is the simplicity of it all, that there was nothing complicated about it. Everyone would know, it would resonate with everybody. If it is not your story, it's someone else's story that you know. And I think that's what made it more successful, and telling it in a way that it is humor. When you want to cry, but then you also want to laugh, and that sense of relief and knowing that things are going to work out, but you don't know how. So I think it was just that whole journey, because that's what we go through as well as people, and being able to see it told first in your language by your people who look like you, who speak like you, with gestures like everything is just how you do it. And I think that's what made it even more successful. For not asking that question to Retti, because she was going to throw me under the bus. She'd say she didn't need to prepare at all.
It's like, it's here already.
No, but I was even telling Retti earlier, because the first time when I got the script, like season 1, for instance, the first time I read it as an audience. I wasn't reading it as part of the cast. And when I read the story, immediately I knew this was the story I wanted to be part of. This is the story that I wanted to tell. And already I could see the nuances, I could see the things that she would do, how crazy Auntie Grace would be. And falling in love with the script first that's what made it easier for everything else to fall into place, because I could already see it. Even with season 2, I mean, Auntie Grace is crazy. I've got a little, when I say that, I mean really, really little, Lillian, please. Like really little dose of crazy. And Auntie Grace has a big sense of crazy. And I think what made it work is having the license and the platform and the ability to and being given room and the space to go as crazy as possible. Because all the time you still have to remember, yes, we are telling a story authentically, but how crazy can you go without losing the actual plot? And I think that's what helps. I always say, okay, I want to go crazy, but I don't want to go crazy and lose the essence of what we're trying to do. And that's one of the things that I always kept in mind, that remember that more than anything, beyond the crazy, there is something that we're telling. There's a message here. There is a lot of undertones and underlying stories that get everyone, that get everyone together. So even in the crazy, I needed to be sensitive to that. And I mean, obviously, I work with amazing people. I mean, I'm standing next to Desmond, Shadrach, and working with Clementine and all these amazing actors. it made it look so effortless. They just made everything so easy and so pleasant. Biggest challenge was actually just the pandemic, and the weather. I don't like cold weather. It was cold everywhere. We would leave Joburg to go to Durban, then Joburg would be hot and Durban would be cold. We come back to Joburg, Durban would be hot and like the cold, there was this cloud just walking with us everywhere we went. And it made us so miserable.
And we had to pretend that summer.
And we had to pretend summer and we're all sleepless and we're looking good and we must all like breeze through. But other than that, I think we had a very strong support system. We had so many challenges. Other than the weather, the pandemic and everything, a lot of things. When with the pandemic, so many dynamics, even some of the things that you dreamt start changing. Because now all of a sudden you realize that you can't just be careless with one another. You can't be like crazily high-fiving, hugging unnecessarily. And those are the things that Black people do. Us when we love, we go like, like, okay, remember to not do that, but so many things, came in to try and stress us out. But thankfully we had a very strong supportive system. I think we've been blessed with such an amazing cast and crew and obviously producers that understand how actors work. I mean, Retti's not a good actor, but Kat is. The other producer is amazing. So sometimes you would see things from the actor's side and actor's perspective. And that helped a lot. And then, I mean, there are also a bunch of very considerate and compassionate people, and they still wanted us to give a good product. And that kind of support is completely unmatched. I don't think, not everybody has that in production companies, I just think we are God's favorite children.
We really are. And I think, everyone was prepared. And no matter what, COVID, there was rioting happening in South Africa at the time when we were shooting. We were under lockdown. I mean, there was a lot. I think we could have made behind the scenes of what was actually happening. But the fact that you guys don't see it when you look at the final product, that for me tells me that this was an 80. Like, you could never say watching it that I remember watching the final cuts of everything and going, we actually finished a series that in what we went through, it's a miracle. So it's a miracle.
Yeah.
There's so much happening. I mean, I'm like, you thought season 1 was messy. You have no idea how messy it is. And what's really great is we have an extra episode for How to Ruin Christmas, the funeral. So we really get to delve into a story a bit more. I know everyone has seen the trailer, so they know it's a funeral, they know Gogo's dying, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We really take all the characters into different journeys. Grace goes through something. We have Dineo going through something. We introduce new characters into the fray. I think, people might think, oh, we know what's going to happen, but you really don't. And even when you're watching, it's very easy, I think, for someone to be like, oh, I know where this is going to go. And then you're going to be like, what? So I can promise you twists and turns. I can promise you lots of laughs. I can promise you drama. And I can promise you heart. And I think that is...
And lots of crying.
Yes, and that is what going home to family is for Christmas, right? It's drama, it's fun, it's comedy, it's heart, it's nostalgia. And that's what How to Ruin Christmas is wrapped in a bow. Well, I think, after season 1, it was like, okay, everyone loved it. Oh, no, like, the pressure's on. What happens now? And we had to come up with season 2, and I think our writing team is really strong. And we love to, what we do is we just sit in a room and we just like pitch ideas. So like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this? But the integrity of the show is still the same. It's in the title, How to Ruin Christmas. We know something very bad has to happen. Some messiness has to happen and somehow get resolved in time for Christmas. Yeah. And that's the formula we try to follow. And it's sometimes really difficult, but everyone keeps throwing around the word franchise. They're like, yeah, but it's a franchise now. So it'll be more and more. So we can only hope. Because we have one writer per episode, we can move a lot faster. Our deadlines are quite tight and our turnaround is tight. I mean, I know Rami has already booked off next year to shoot the third season, even though we don't even know if that's happening. But she's like, no, I'm available.
Yeah. I blocked those months out completely. I'm like, sorry. Yeah, I'll be shooting out to room.
But it's like, it's great because now that I know who plays each role, it's easier to write for them. So whereas in season 1, you just created these characters in your head and you're like, okay, cool. But now that they are embodied by these humans, it's so much fun to write because you're like, oh, imagine Rami doing this. That's funny. Like, or imagine Brett Desmond doing that. So the creative process is a collaborative one. We don't work in isolation. It's also like, bouncing off ideas to Netflix as well. They're really receptive to that. And it's always like, oh, that's funny. I love a collaborative process. And even talking to people about story. What do you think of this? Rami describes me telling the story, and I'm animated apparently whenever I pitch a story and whatever.
She is. And also just to add on to that, the way she says when there's in the writers' room, they throw and bounce ideas and all of that. And what I appreciate as well is that now when we get onto set, is not just a director saying, this is what I want, this is what I see. It's like, okay, fine, this is what I think it is. So she'll be like, okay, I brought eggs and oil, and someone will be like, okay, I brought cheese. The other one will be like, I have bread. And they give us the license and the room to explore even further and to see how far we can push the envelope to make this whole dream thing be the success that it's supposed to be. So I appreciate that it is not like cast and set in stone. They still remember that as much as we're actors, we're also creatives, and we think and see things in different ways. And when we put that together, then it becomes magic. It's always a winning formula because everybody is so into it and they want to bring their A game into it. Their best is always what will show all the time. I think it's more the importance of family. That it doesn't matter what we go through, it doesn't matter what we fight about, it doesn't matter what we disagree on. Family still remains the most important thing. And also, especially now when we're dealing with the pandemic, for me, I want someone to watch it and feel the need to reach out to a long lost relative, someone that they had broken relationships with, someone they haven't spoken with for quite some time. I think I want it to be a kind of like a healing process for someone that changes their life. Because some people, they don't know that. They always think, oh, I've got such a dysfunctional family. They don't know everyone's family is actually dysfunctional. Yeah. So, and then when you see it in someone else, that's when you realize, oh, wow, I thought it was just us. So everyone is like that. Then you realize that you're actually sweating the small stuff that now deal with what is more important. What is more important for me is having my family around, instead of being stubborn about something that we fought about. So, and I think that's what How to Ruin Christmas is. It's like a balm. It's like putting something like a beautiful healing balm and mending broken relationships, restoring, rebuilding, and reaffirming each other, and just spreading love all around. And with the pandemic, I know a lot of people are not going to be able to get together, see each other. I hope some people, they can actually make a date and say, at such and such a time, we are going to watch the series together from whichever end of the country you might be, so that they can still have that sense of togetherness, even if they're not together.
Yeah, I think she's completely summed it up. It's about family. It's about loving the dysfunction within. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but we can all definitely relate, laugh, heal, cry, like all of it. And that's what it is. I want people to watch it and go, oh, you said it earlier. Oh, let me call my gran and just tell her how much I love her, even though she drives me crazy. You know what I mean? Just, reaching out and just knowing that this is what it's all about.
Well, my highlight with How to Ruin Christmas is also a sense of family as well, because I think we've grown so much as artists as well. I mean, we even have our own relationships out of work, and it has also shown me how possible it is to have something, to be able to tell these kind of stories. I think there's an overflow of how to ruin Christmases. She's going to start pitching for the next season. But I'm being serious. Because when you think about it, when it comes to Black stories, especially African stories, there is always a story that flows into other stories and other stories. And our stories are so rich that it doesn't matter how far you stretch them, there will always be another element that you find there. And that is something that I've learned. I realized that if we wanted, we could never stop telling the story. There'll be something to say each and every year if we really wanted to tell.
This is her pitching. It's definitely her pitching.
No. I've pitched before. Like, I'm being serious. Retti? No.
I know. I hear you.
Yeah.
I think from my side, it's we went through a lot, pandemic, riots, whatever, but we have a show, and I don't know that a lot of people would have survived the curveballs that were thrown at us. But we have a show, and I'm really proud of it, and that's what makes me proud. On the very last day, we were fighting for the show. Like there were things we have to be like, let's shoot. And I've never seen a crew more supportive. I've never seen a cast that's like, no, it's fine. We're chasing the sun. We're gonna go. We're gonna do it. And it's magic. I think the last day there was a lot of complications with a lot of things. And if I were to show how the scene actually came together, I think she'd be like, was this that day that we were like, we're not gonna make it? And we did. And I appreciate that. So my How to Ruin Christmas family, which is the cast and crew, we drive each other crazy, but we just love each other. And that is my takeouts. This is also my How to Ruin Christmas family.
Look, it's worse than last year.
Worse.
More problems. Like if you thought there were problems last season during the wedding, the funeral is even more hectic. The conflicts are real. I just think it's more hilarious. I did personally enjoyed the first season, but this one I think we just lifted it off to another level and zone in terms of comedy, in terms of the great performances, the beautiful scenery from Durban. I think South Africa has sold so nicely to understand the scenery that we have. New actors, that's what you can expect in the film. The music is extremely beautiful, but man, the storyline is insane. Doom is up to mischief. My dad shows us flames.
Like Motlatsi rightfully pointed out, How to Ruin Christmas, the wedding, season 1 was sort of the platform, a beautiful platform from where we could then introduce the Twala and the Sello families to the world, as well as the How to Ruin Christmas franchise. So going into second season with How to Ruin Christmas, the funeral, Netflix has allowed us, Netflix and Burnt Onion, that there's such a beautiful union. And they've given Burnt Onion obviously the license to say, go ahead and tell this South African story, because clearly we did something right with season 1. Because of all the love that we received with season 1 from people all over the world, we're equally as excited going into season 2. So as I was saying that, in season 1, that was sort of the bedrock on which we based the characters, the world in which they live in, etc. Season 2 is basically a beautiful build-up from there, wherein the beautiful script obviously then allows us to do what we do as actors. So the choices that we've made as actors have stayed, obviously, because once you are a particular character, you've got to stay real to them. But now the story, with its beautiful twists and turns, and the things that happen in season 2, it's obviously building on a very solid foundation of season 1. Season 2 promises much more of the same, but the main difference with season 2 is that it's now 4 episodes instead of 3. So there's a whole lot more time to tell some of the wonderful stories that the two families go through. So in terms of Vusi, Twala, and where he goes, I can't give you too much away. I can say, please make sure that you are there on Friday the 10th, when we release to the 190 countries that Netflix is in, also to the 215 odd million people that are waiting for it.
My character has been through a lot, is still going through a lot this time around. But I think with this season, we were just looking at family dynamics. What happens when a family gathers during a funeral? How do you relate with your parents now that there's like other extra people in the family? So I think we get to teach people about relationship between a wife, a mother-in-law, and son. How do you balance that hierarchy? We get to understand also the relationship between the parents and the two sons much more deeper. I think the only thing I can tell you now is that the chemistry that we had on how during Christmas, the wedding is taken to a different height with how during Christmas, the funeral. Because now we are so used to each other. We don't mind the jokes. We actually enjoy more of the humor. The performances are so spot on, and it's so emotive. I think what we thought we had in the first one, and we won a lot of awards this side of the world in South Africa. I can assure you now, for this season, we're about to win maybe ×2 those awards.
I think the biggest challenge, and this is something that's true for both seasons, when we shot the wedding last year, How to Win Christmas, the wedding, and this year with the funeral, it is during the toughest time in the world to be making films because of all these different lockdowns, because of COVID, which basically meant that we've had to have production breaks just to ensure that everyone is safe on set. So in as much as you could have prepared and thought, oh, we're going to shoot this next week, and then it gets postponed to another week. So I think that's pretty much the most challenging of experiences. As much as for as far as the acting and everything goes and character development, there wasn't really much because we have beautiful scripts. We had beautiful scripts in season 1 and in season 2. And the Ramaphakelas and the rest of the team at Burnt Onion certainly pulled out all the stops in terms of making sure that we have a winning recipe. So for me, for last year and for this year, both times I think the challenge was shooting during the time of COVID with all the lockdowns. But yeah, outside of that, it's just the normal sort of banter that goes on between yourself as an actor, the director, the producers, whatever, in terms of where we're pitching the show, how each of the characters must show up in it. That's just normal. It's just a lockdown thing that causes a bit of stress. But thankfully, here we all are.
When we shot the first season of How to Ruin Christmas, the wedding, I met incredible people. I met incredible talent, people that I'll forever cherish in my heart and my life for the longest time. And to be with them again and play with them again for me meant a lot. I remember when we were shooting a scene, we were at our house in the beach house, and when we had the funeral, right? It was so incredible how we shot that. Everybody was playing. Everybody was just holding it. My dad was the MC killing it. We were just cracking ourselves as he's doing his lines there. And then we were also doing other stuff while sitting down, the way it was directed. So I kind of missed that. I kind of missed the energy of the whole cast of Joni Babuzanu, the director, together with the Ramaphakelas, the producers. How they say if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so alive. And to go back into that ship with all the people that shot it, Lance, the DOP, exceptional, and the whole team. For me, was what I was looking forward to, and also to spend time with them in Durban, and then there's the ocean there. We'll probably go for a swim, and when I'm with them, I actually feel like a real superstar, and also I'm so grateful to be doing this with legends in the game. So yeah, that's why.
I think that the world needs to laugh at the moment, and everything is terribly serious. There's so much anxiety, so much of uncertainty, and all this kind of stuff that's going on in the world that it's time. We've always had dramas, we've had all those sort of things, but the most important thing is to be able to laugh at ourselves. And I think that the How to Ruin Christmas franchise does that very well. Even in this season, where it's called The Funeral, Normally funerals would be somber, and you would think that, but we still bring a laugh and still make fun of things like that. And I think the world just needs to laugh a little bit. So if people could just for a minute just forget about all the tough things that are going on in the world and in their lives, and just be able to just take a moment to just laugh, that would be it for me. There's obviously universal stories that are told in both seasons, and people all over the world can relate to those. I'm not saying that one shouldn't take away from a positive, that people shouldn't take away any positive from it. There are positive things: relationships with parents, relationships with siblings, friendships, circumstances changing in your life. Those are things that anyone can relate to, which is why I guess the franchise is successful. But if people can just laugh, then I think we've done our job.
Yeah. I think for me, I would say family is everything. It doesn't matter whether you have money or you don't have money. What you take from this is that stick to your family. That's all you have. And when we spread the love, Christmas becomes even better. It doesn't get ruined. But maybe people must make sure they don't ruin their Christmas by making sure that the card does not decline when they go buy presents or groceries for Christmas.
Don't spend it all.
Don't spend it all. We're still in Jan to get to. Spend it up. But have a blast on the 10th of December when the world and Netflix is just showing off with How to Ruin Christmas, the funeral.
I've kind of thought of that before, and I thought, well, besides actually enjoying every single scene, even the ones that I'm not in, for me personally, it'll have to be when the family is assembled in front of Auntie Prudence, who is my aunt, who is Gogtwala's sister, and she comes there, and then yes, she is fierce, and she plays such a with Mamte Binyande, plays Prudence, and I just love because the Vositwala character has always been the one who's in charge. This is how we're gonna do things, and Hana. But there's one person in his life that he's so scared of, and that's his aunt. And shooting that scene and watching that dynamite of an actress called Tembinyande doing her stuff. For me, I think that is the highlight of season 2. I thoroughly enjoyed the changing dynamic, especially for my character. But I mean, even the beautiful place we were in, a place called Inanda in Durban, I think that for me has got to be my killer scene. Yeah,
I would say something similar to that. The scene when we get to the coffin, when Gogo arrives at our homestead in Nanda.
Yeah.
And then now my dad is fighting with his brother about, no, you must move it to the left, and then the coffin falls, and guess what?